Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Grant. In today's video, I am back in the kitchen again. And Chrissy, I love you girl, but today I am moving on to pastries. Today I'm actually making a cake, which I'm really excited. My inspiration is the famous pastry chef, Dominique Ansel. I have his book, Everyone Can Bake, Simple Recipes to Master and Mix. So this book is quite interesting because it's separated into three different sections. Bases, fillings, and finishings. So I'm essentially just coming up with my own kind of cake. I thought about my base, which my base is going to be Dominique's just go-to chocolate cake. The filling, I'm doing a peanut butter mousse, and then the finishing, I am doing a dark chocolate glaze. So I decided to choose chocolate, peanut butter, and chocolate because chocolate and peanut butter happens to be, if not my favorite, then one of my favorite flavor combinations. So I am super excited to see how this turns out. Also, I'm really excited to do this because to me personally, I would rather bake a cake or make a pastry as opposed to like cooking a meal. Now don't get me wrong, okay? I had so much fun cooking Chrissy's French onion soup, and I can assure you I will be making non-desserty and non-pastry things in the future as well, but I love baking, what can I say? There's a lot of little minor details from reading the recipe that you really have to put some TLC into this, but if you follow the instructions perfectly, which I hope that I do, I will be able to come out with a delicious and tasty and beautiful looking cake. Now I'm just gonna quit the talking, so let's get to cooking. As you can see, I have my cookbook right here. I will also preface by saying because I am making a cake bottom and then a mousse top and then a glaze on top, it'll make sense once everything is put together, but I do have a springform pan right here, as you can see. I buttered it and I dusted it with some unsweetened cocoa powder that you will see that I use soon. So like I said, I just buttered it, I dusted it, and this is ready to go. Alright, so as you can see, I have a medium bowl and a large bowl. My medium bowl will be for my wet ingredients, my large one will be for my dry ingredients. So Dominique says for my dry ingredients, we have 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour, which I already have measured out. We also need 1 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. This is just regular sugar. And then we have a 1/2 cup of some unsweetened cocoa powder. It says not Dutch process. I have no idea what that means, but I just picked up some Hershey's unsweetened cocoa powder, like I said earlier. And I'm just gonna put that in here. Alright, I also have some baking powder, and we just need a 1/2 teaspoon of that, which that will help with rising, I am presuming. We also need a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And when it comes to like baking a cake or anything, you want to make sure that your measurements are precise, since baking is a science, whereas if you are cooking a meal, you can of course eye a lot more whenever it comes to measurements. And then we also need a 1/4 teaspoon of just table salt. So this is my little salt shaker that I opened up, and the salt goes in. I have a little bit left. And we are just going to whisk this together. He says that you do not need to sift this. He said the whisk should just break up any clumps that's in there. If you want to sift, of course, I'm presuming that you are totally fine with doing that. I just don't feel like doing that right now. And we're going to shake this off because I will need the whisk for the wet ingredients. So, speaking of, we have to whisk together 2 regular large eggs, yolk and white included. So that goes into here. We have a cup of whole milk. This is not I spilled a little bit. This is not 1%, this is not 2%, this is not skim, not almond, this is just regular whole milk. We also have 2/3 of a cup of vegetable oil, which I just put this in this little mug right here to make it easy to pour, since I did basically ration everything out. And of course, when it comes to baking, you want to use vegetable oil or canola oil since they are neutral oils and they do not add flavor towards the finished product. If you are making an olive oil cake, then of course you would be using olive oil, but we are not doing that today. So we are just going to mix the wet ingredients, break up the eggs. Looking at this, this is a very simple chocolate cake recipe, which it does say that it is his go-to, so I can understand why. So we have a rubber spatula right here. Dominique says that we have to add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients in thirds, and like I said, instead of the whisk, we are using the spatula. And he says that the batter should come out as velvety smooth. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. I love chocolate cake, and the fact that I am making a chocolate cake with a peanut butter mousse on top, literally I cannot tell you how ecstatic that makes me. Let me tell you, I am super excited to try this, especially since it's Dominique. I seriously want to go to his bakery in New York, only because that is the closest one to me. But I have never been, and I would absolutely love to go. And I can assure you, these are not bumps, they're just air bubbles. All right, look at this. It's looking pretty good. Alrighty guys, the batter is complete. Love that. So, let me get my dusted and buttered springform pan, and I will also say my oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, let's put this batter in my little pan. Oh yeah, look at that. This is gonna be good as hell. So I will say that his recipe does call for an 8-inch round cake pan. I did not have an 8-inch round cake pan. This is a 9-inch springform pan, of course, but it'll still be fine. However, I'm gonna put this in a 350 degree oven, like I already said, and it should be ready between 45 to 50 minutes. So I will be back as soon as it's done. Alrighty guys, so 45 minutes has passed, and thankfully my cake is complete. I will say that it is, like I said, 45 to 50 minutes, depending on the kind of oven you have and the temperature, since ovens do vary, but mine is done. In the cookbook, Dominique actually gave me kind of 3 different ways to kind of see if the cake is complete. The first way is to jiggle it, so just take the cake and jiggle it very gently. If the cake wiggles in the center slightly, then that means it is done. If it wiggles too much, then you need to put that back in the oven for however long. Secondly is to kind of tap it. So don't insert your finger into the cake, but press onto the cake, and if it bounces back, that means it's ready as well. Or you can take a paring knife or a toothpick would work as well. Stick it into the center, and if it comes out clean, then it is also done. So I unfortunately just have to wait to make the mousse until the cake is completely cooled. If I made the mousse and put it on, then the mousse will completely melt since the cake is really hot. And also the cookbook says that if you are making mousse to put on a cake, you need to make it when you will put the mousse onto the cake. You can't make it and then wait a little bit. That's for dessert. So I will be back once the cake is cooled, and we'll get ready for the peanut butter mousse. Okay guys, so the cake is finally cool. It is cool to the touch, it's not warm at all. I'm going to trim the cake, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a few seconds. I'm gonna flatten the surface, the top surface, to make the mousse fit perfectly on top, and then we will start making the peanut butter mousse after that. So let's get to cutting. Alrighty, so cake is essentially, in my opinion, a form of bread. Therefore, I have a bread knife. I just have a long serrated knife right here, and I'm just gonna try to eyeball this because I'm going to cut off the top so that, like I said earlier, that we have a flat surface to work off of. So I'm gonna start right now, and I'm not really the best at this. However, what happens happens. There's gonna be mousse on top, so it'll totally be fun. There we go. Let me get a little spatula. All right, so that'll do. And with this, don't you dare, I swear to God, if you get rid of this, I will literally have to jump through the camera and start fighting because this is golden. Put this in a little container, which I am about to do right now, and store this away. Eat it with ice cream later tonight or tomorrow, whatever, but do not get rid of this. Okay, so since this is cut, I'm gonna go ahead and take my side of the springform pan, and I'm just gonna reset this again. Just like that, and the mousse will fit perfectly right in here. So let's start making the mousse. Okay guys, so to start with the peanut butter mousse, I have 1 tablespoon and then a half teaspoon of unflavored powdered gelatin. If you have gelatin sheets, I'm sure you could be able to use that. However, I don't know the ratio difference, so I'm not the person to ask. Refer to Dominique. And I also have 1/4 cup of cold water, and I'm just going to pour the water with the gelatin. I'm going to get a little spoon, and I'm gonna make sure that the gelatin dissolves in here. And you wanna make sure that this was cold water, not room temperature, not warm, not lukewarm, but cold. All right, so it looks like the gelatin has dissolved. It honestly looks like applesauce, so I will put this to the side. Alrighty guys, so I have a medium saucepan right here on medium heat. I don't know if you can read that, but it's on medium heat. And then I also was able to find my 2/3 measuring cup, which is exciting, but that is full of whole milk. Just like with the cake, this is whole milk, not skim, not 1%, not 2%, but whole milk. And I'm just going to put the whole milk in the saucepan, and I'm gonna heat it until it boils. Once it reaches its boiling point, I'm going to remove it from the heat. But make sure, for the love of God, make sure that this milk does not burn, because that could be ugly. Alrighty guys, so while the milk is heating right behind me, let's get started at making the custard. Alrighty, so to start with the custard, I have 5 egg yolks right here. It's just the yolks, and they are all mixed, like they all just broke, but you know, it's fine. What happens, happens. And so I'm pouring that into here. They're going to be whisked anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then I also have a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. That goes into the bowl. And we are going to mix this until the eggs and the sugar are well combined. Also looking behind me to make sure that also looking behind me to make sure that the milk is good. And it's not boiling yet. So that is well combined. Alrighty, so the milk was boiling. I took it off the heat, obviously, because I'm not at the stove. And what we're gonna do now is we are going to pour just a tiny bit, as we whisk, of this milk into the egg and sugar mixture. Now this is called tempering, I suppose, because Dominique says that tempering is basically you're adding a hot substance to a cold liquid. This case, it would be the, not cold, but this was room temperature. In this case, it would be the eggs and the sugar, just so that you bring the eggs back like you gradually heat the eggs so that you wouldn't put all this milk in at once, because if you did, then the eggs would scramble. And we are not making scrambled eggs, we are making the custard for the mousse. So I'm just stirring, so we are just bringing, like I said, the eggs back up to a hot temperature. I'll just put a little bit more in. And now we will add the eggs into the milk. Sorry if you can't see. All right, so this is the base for our custard. And I am going to put this on medium-low heat, and I will gently stir now with a spatula. And this should cook for about 10 minutes or until you draw a finger through the spatula and there should be a line there. So next time you see me, I will be on my Grant cam. Alrighty guys, so like Dominique said, I just want to gently stir every so often, and this should gradually start to thicken. If you all don't know, this is the basic base to any kind of custard right here. Eggs, sugar, and any kind of cream or milk. And so I only know that because I watch Food Network religiously. I will see you back in about 10 minutes. Alrighty, so it has roughly been 10 minutes for the custard, so let's take a look at it to see how it's done. Alrighty, so remember that line test I told you about? This is basically it. So you have custard on your finger and the line stays. So that means it is complete. So obviously I have this off of the heat, and the recipe says that once the custard is done and when it's still warm, you want to add 1 cup of creamy peanut butter. I'm just using Jif, not sponsored. Hey Jif, love ya. And then we will also add our gelatin, which as you can see, it has solidified, but it will melt because the custard is hot. So let me get another spoon. And I will add the peanut butter, because once again, this is a peanut butter mousse, and it's just, like I said, it's a cup. Go ahead, get it draw, because do not want to waste this. Just gonna go ahead and stir this around so that this will turn into a peanut butter custard. You can see it melting. And we're going to go ahead and add the gelatin as well. And we just want to stir this until everything is completely melted, and also until everything is well combined. Honestly, this is going to be the weirdest thing to say, but I mean, I love this. I love the taste, of course, but I love the smell of peanut butter, especially when it's hot. Oh, and that's literally like it's in my face. Oh, it smells so good. The custard portion of the mousse is complete. This is I presume, the texture that we are going for, the viscosity of it all. And the next step that we have to do with this is let it cool completely, because of course what makes a mousse is the whipped cream. And if I were to whip the cream and put it right in here into the warm mixture, the whipped cream will, well, it'll melt, and that would be absolutely disastrous. So this has to cool completely. I'm gonna give it, say, maybe half an hour, and I will come back once this is cooled, and I will whip the heavy cream. Alright guys, so my custard is no longer hot. It is at room temperature now. So that means I will be starting the whipped cream. So everyone knows how to do whipped cream. I have heavy cream, and Do not come for me. I am not using a whisk. I have a hand mixer with a whisk attachment. For the sake of time and my sanity, I'm doing it this way. If you want to do, I have done plenty of times where I've made whipped cream with a whisk. Now is not the time. So, for this mousse, I need 1 2/3 cup of heavy cream, and then I'll get to whisking. Something like this. That is a soft peak, and it sort of reminds me of a penguin, but nevertheless, that is what we are going for. Okay, so that's done. Took less time than a regular whisk, didn't it? And I sped it up for you guys. You're welcome. All right, so as you can see, we have the whipped cream and the room temperature custard. What we are going to do now is we are going to add the custard to the cream a little bit at a time, and we're just gonna fold it in. If you have seen Schitt's Creek, then hopefully I know you know what folding it in means. And we're just doing a little bit at a time. And the reason why you don't want to put the entire custard in here all at once is because the custard will just weigh the cream down, and therefore you would no longer be having a mousse. And the reason why you fold it is because you want to still incorporate air. You don't want to whisk it because like if you were to add this all at once to the cream, it'll just weigh everything down. Okay guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I just keep folding and folding, and clearly, as you can see, it is kind of lumpy. It's not the best looking. And what I am guessing is that's because I probably let the custard sit for too long. However, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna plow through, and everything should turn out. I just don't want to lose the texture because it is a mousse. But like I said, everything will turn out. This will be covered by a glaze, so you really won't look at it unless you cut into it. But I'm just going to start putting this into the cake. We have the chocolate cake, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this peanut butter mousse, this lumpy mousse, right on top. And I'm just going to get this offset spatula, and I'm going to smooth it over. I do have to say, this all fit perfectly right in here. So that's a good sign. And you also want to get this as flat as possible. So this looks even. It doesn't look the best because it is lumpy. Oh, I'm so upset about that. However, we're still gonna make do. So this is what's gonna happen next. I'm gonna put this in the freezer. Yes, you heard that right, the freezer. And I need this to be completely frozen solid so that whenever I pour the glaze over it, the glaze won't melt the mousse or the cake or whatever. This will be ready to go. So I will see you back in a while once this is completely frozen. Alrighty guys, it is 10:48 in the evening, and I've been working on this cake since about 3 p.m. and we will still not be done this evening. However, we are in the last stretch, and that stretch is making Dominique Ansel's go-to dark chocolate glaze, and that's what we're going to put over our chocolate cake, peanut butter mousse cake. And that's just going to give it its finish, and it's going to just complete the decadence and everything, and it'll make everything look really beautiful. Alright guys, so to start with the glaze, we have 4 teaspoons of our unflavored powdered gelatin, which I did use in the mousse before, but we're also going to be using this in the glaze, and we do the gelatin with, this time, a 1/4 cup of cold water, not room temperature, not warm, but cold, and we are going to stir until all the gelatin is dissolved again. So that's the gelatin. Now for our little cocoa mixture, we have, just like with our chocolate cake, some unsweetened cocoa powder, and I have a half cup plus 2 extra tablespoons of cocoa powder, and we need room temperature water this time. Not cold, not hot, but room temperature. And we have 1/3 of a cup of water, and we are just going to mix the two. Okay, Dominique, I really wish you were here because I have a question to ask you, because I don't know if this is the correct texture. I mean, this is the only texture I am able to get. It's just very clumpy and the powder's just all bunched up together. However, I'm just gonna set this aside. Alrighty, now we will come over to my little Grant cam. Alrighty guys, so I have another medium saucepan here. You'll also see I have a little thermometer attached to the saucepan. And then we have a cup of granulated sugar, and then half a cup, and then an extra tablespoon and a half of heavy cream, and a whisk. So we just have to set this up to like a medium heat, and we're gonna pour the sugar, and there's 1/2 tablespoon, full tablespoon, and we're just gonna mix this together until it comes to a simmer, like I said, and until the sugar has dissolved. So I was wrong. It turns out we did not have to wait until it came to a simmer. We just had to wait until the sugar was dissolved, which it now is. Now we get to add our cocoa mixture, and we have to let that come to a boil, or until, and we also have to wait until the temperature reaches 113 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's why I have my thermometer. I'll be right back, because I can't do this with one hand. As we can see, the chocolate is melting. I was a little worried right there, if I'm being honest, because A, I didn't want a second mistake, and B, I was like, this is really damn clumpy, but you know what? No more clumps. And I'm gonna do something in a while to ensure that I don't have any clumps, and you will see what I mean. So we just gotta bring this to a boil, and we will take this off of the heat. Alright guys, so I have the chocolate that came to a boil. I have a fine mesh strainer and or sieve, if you will, depending on what part of the world you are in. And then we have a bowl. So basically what we're gonna do is we are going to take the chocolate and strain it through this strainer to remove any lumps. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. You can always get a spoon and just push all of the chocolate out so it comes out on the other side. Now, once that chocolate is strained, now we can put our gelatin mixture into the chocolate, and we are just going to whisk this. And the chocolate should melt the gelatin. Look how silky that looks. Oh my god. Remember what I said on my Grant Cam about ensuring that we don't have any lumps? Well, because the cookbook told me to, I have a little hand blender. This is a KitchenAid immersion blender, and I'm going to be using this on our glaze. So Dominique, I saw in his master class that whenever he does this, he holds the bowl down to create a deeper basin, put the blender in, power on. There we go. That should be even more smooth than what it was. Alrighty, so I have a cookie sheet with a wire rack. I am taking the cake off of my little springform bottom, and I'm just going to transfer it to here, and you'll see why. we have our glaze, our hot glaze, we have our frozen cake, and so basically all we have left to do is to glaze it. There's no particular way to do it, you just gotta do it at once. I've seen his masterclass in multiple YouTube videos and he says, just don't hesitate. So, we will not be hesitating. There we go. So this is the cake. I'm gonna put this in the freezer yet again real quickly and I will be right back. Sorry about that, guys. I just had to put that in the freezer really quickly because I didn't want the hot chocolate to melt my mousse. However, just like the cake has to freeze for the hot chocolate has to freeze for the end result. So good things come to those who wait, and I have definitely waited. The next time you see me will be tomorrow because it is now 11:21 and I am ready to call it quits for the day. I am super duper excited though to cut into the cake and to taste it. All the cooking and prep is done. We've made it this far and we just have this much left to go. I hope you all are enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. This is something that I definitely don't really do and I'm just so glad to come up with something honestly extremely delicious. So thank you all so much for waiting, and I know you're watching this in one sitting, but have a good night and I'll see you in the morning. Hey everyone, it is a brand new day. So I just want to let you know that I took the cake out of the freezer and put it into the refrigerator to start thawing at 8:45 this morning, and it is 12:40, so it has almost been 4 hours and I believe it's ready to cut into. I went ahead and transferred the cake from the bottom of the springform pan to our little cake tray that my partner and I have. So I think it looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. It's quite aesthetic. I really do like that. The mousse feels like it's thawed, at least on the outside, but let's cut into it. I cannot wait. Full disclaimer, when I released the springform pan, it did kind of split the mousse right here. The cake did not split, but I'm gonna cut that piece first because it does kind of bug me. So I just have a kitchen knife and I'm just going to go for it. Feels like it's completely thawed, which is good. All right, are we ready? There we go, guys. Look at that. That looks pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. I don't know if that's focusing, but you all get the drift. Just as a reminder, we have the chocolate cake, the peanut butter mousse, and the dark chocolate glaze on top. Now, here we go. Now it's my favorite part. All right. The fact that it's a cold cake is not really throwing me off, if any of you are thinking about that. It has to be cold or else the mousse will melt. And also remember how I'm saying remember because to me it was last night. However, remember how, you can kind of see the mousse was kind of clumpy. I am not getting clumpiness as a texture at all. Oh. That is so good. Wow. I'm gonna put this down because if I don't, then I won't be talking to you all. So this is well worth it. Obviously, it did take some time because I started making it about, what time is it? Now it's 12 44. So it's taken about 21 hours until the genesis of making this cake to the completion of it. However, this is amazing. This is so good. Dominique Ansel did a really good job at obviously developing these recipes because he clearly did something right. Of course, he's a famous pastry chef, so he clearly knows what he's talking about. I'm so excited because this was the first recipe I've made out of his book, and if this is this good, especially if I screwed up the mousse, then I just can't even imagine how other things out of his book will taste. So this has been really fun. I hope you all had fun too. I know it's been kind of tedious, however, the end result is obviously well worth it. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That looks so good because it is delicious. I'm sorry I'm pointing the knife at you, but oh, it's so good. Guys, you have to give this a try. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to take you all on this trip because it definitely has been. Thank you all once again for watching. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up. If you know any other recipes by Dominique Ansel, please let me know in the comments and I would love to try to recreate them. Or if you have any other dessert recipes that you would like me to try, of course, let me know. I always take requests. And if you will, just ring the bell down below so that you will receive notifications for whenever I post more videos. So thank you all so much for watching again. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye guys.